Hello everyone, I'm George from Ireland. So one of my innumerable loyal viewers asked me to make a video on how to get a King's Scholarship to Eton. Well, it's a very simple procedure. So you have to register, usually by the age of 11. In very exceptional circumstances, they might let you register beyond that date. Incidentally, this is for boys only. I don't know what they do with about people who change their gender identity. Schools have to be accommodating to this kind of thing these days. Anyway, there'll be one test at the age of 11 just to rule you out or keep you as a possibility, because this is an extraordinarily competitive exam. Everybody knows that Eton's the most illustrious school in the United Kingdom. The full fees for Eton are £42,000 a year, and if you win a King's Scholarship, the school will support the parents financially as much as they consider necessary. You'd always get at least 50% off the fees. You'll get anything above 50%, all the way up to 100%. Should that be necessary. Eton likes everybody to contribute something. If you get a King's Scholarship, to pay some fees, even if it's just 1%. In the very unlikely case where you couldn't pay that, they will pay all of that and even help with uniform costs and things like that. So as the website says, that if your son is truly talented, you should never feel that Eton is beyond your fees. But as I say, you really need to be out of this world to be getting King's Scholarship. There was no way I was going to get one. So at the age of 11, a test in English, maths, verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning, an interview. Now, majority of people say, sorry, just can't consider you, it's just not realistic. Other people, they're realistic but unlikely, but they're still on the list for the King's Scholarship. Because most boys who go to Eton are at prep schools. Some of the prep schools, which are the main feeder schools for Eton, would be, say, Summerfields, the Dragon School, Aysgarth, that's in Yorkshire, Ludgrove, St Paul's, Westminster Under School, St Paul's, as in the junior school of St Paul's School, quite a few more. Anyway, but you can into any school. You can be into a state school, but that's unlikely. So remember, at the age of 13, most boys sit common entrance to get in. That's what I took. But if you're the brighter, say, third of boys aiming for Eton, you take the King's Scholarship. There are 14 places per year. You go to Eton for 5 years, so therefore about 70 King's Scholars. But sitting for the King's Scholarship would be about 90 boys each year. Now, the majority of them, the parents are told, it's pretty unlikely he's going to get it. But we'll put him in for the King's Scholarship because common entrance would be too easy for him. And then they're towards the top end of that 90, their boys who are serious contenders for the King's Scholarship. So you sit the King's Scholarship exam. Some people will be offered to those in the top 14. It's just possible you're in the top 14 and say, I don't want to be a King's Scholar, I want to be an Opperton Scholar. But doesn't that mean you have to pay more in fees? I suppose it does. They're that rich, they're willing to turn that down. And then if you get in as a King's Scholar, you can put KS after your name. Joe Bloggs KS. But so, as I say, this is an exam at 11, roughly 11, and then there's another exam sitting the actual King's Scholarship at the age of 13 or so, as in the end of year 8. You might still be 12 when you sit it. You might be 13. So you sit it in the April of a certain year, and to join Eton in the September of that same year. So you actually go to Eton and spend about 3 days there. So Eton is divided into about 24 houses, one of which is called College. College is the oldest house in the most historic part of the school. And the King's Scholars, they all live in College. So they're called KSs or else colleges, because Eton College just means the school. But as I say, that particular house, which is just for the King's Scholars, is called College. Everybody's not a King's Scholar is an Opperton. So Eton's made up about 1,200 Oppertons and 70 King's Scholars. So when you go to sit the King's Scholarship, you stay in a house. Well, obviously, a couple of them will stay in College, but most of them will go stay in an Opperton's house, because every Opperton's house might have 1 or 2 spare bedrooms. And then you're sitting exams in really all the mainstream subjects, in English, French. If you haven't done French, another modern language, usually Spanish. I think it can be even Chinese these days. Latin and Greek, if you've done them. It's better if you have done them. It is possible to get a King's Scholarship these days not having done any Latin. That's unusual. And music, if you're really good at music. There's a separate thing called Music Scholarship. Perhaps I'll come on to that a bit later. Obviously, maths, science, and there's English. There's a general paper, which is for like sort of history, geography, and religious studies. So and there's an interview as part of this process as well. So this is really high level. You have to be really outstanding for your age in year 8. And if you pass it, then join Eton in year 9 and do the whole 5 years. Right, so that's how you get a King's Scholarship. And once you get in, living in college and wearing the ordinary Eton uniform, but they also have a gown, an extra gown, which they have to wear to lessons and indeed chapel. If they're going around in school dress, i.e. school uniform, when they're not going to chapel or not going to lessons, they don't have to wear the gown for the rest of the time. It's this extra thing to mark them out, a black gown. So I'm not sure what else you would need to know about how to get a King's Scholarship. Apply on the website, and don't think you have to be posh. I come from a middle-class family. My grandparents were working class. I went there. There are other people who came from relatively humble backgrounds, or the previous headmaster of Eton, Tony Little. He went to Eton Choir School, doesn't exist anymore because he was a chorister when he was little at Eton College Chapel, and then he went to Eton as a King's Scholar. And he said his father was a baggage handler at Heathrow Airport. He said he was as working class as they come. He was the first male in his family to go to school beyond the age of 14. And then later came back as headmaster. So yes, being candid with you, most boys are upper middle class. Some of them are aristocratic, but don't think that you'll be the only one if you come from a more ordinary background. But obviously, the best way to get into to getting a King's Scholarship is to do online lessons with me in all the humanities subjects in English, history, geography, religious studies, French, things like that. Can't help you with the maths or science, by the way. Can recommend people who will, and interview, and I can tell you the kind of thing they're going to ask you in an interview. So that's how you get a scholarship, King's Scholarship to Eton. There's also a music scholarship. Now you can get a King's Scholarship and get a music scholarship. You can hold both at the same time. Or you get a King's Scholarship, try for the music scholarship and fail, no problem. You could go for the King's Scholarship, not even attempt a music scholarship, no need to do so. You could go for the music scholarship and not even attempt the King's Scholarship. The music scholarship is I think a bit of money off the fees, but the main thing is your music lessons are free because there's a marvellous musical tradition at Eton. And there's 2 chapels. There's College Chapel, which is right beside the house called College, and there's Lower Chapel. So if you're a KS, you have to go to College Chapel all the way through. If you're an Oppidon, like I was, you go to Lower Chapel for your first 2 years, and then you go to College Chapel for the next 3 years because the whole school can't fit into College Chapel. So if you're going to go for a music scholarship, you need to be really good at least 2 instruments, one of which could be the voice. And the more musical instruments, the merrier. Have to have achieved quite a high grade already. I don't know what's the minimum grade to be considered. Now, if you're not quite good enough for a music scholarship, you can get one down from that music exhibition. I'm not sure what the financial implications of that one are. It might simply be the honour of being a music exhibitionist. So if you're a music scholar, you can put MS behind your name. You can be KS and MS. You can be KS. You might be only MS. You might be an ME, KS and an ME, and on and on. All right, so that is just a very little introduction. Just so the thing is to contact Eton, register as soon as you can. It's not that laborious. They want to help. It's their job, and they're always looking for gifted and talented boys. So it's never too early to make an inquiry. Just to read as much as possible, practice all your academic skills as much as possible, and bring something else to it, whether it's judo or having learned a really unusual language, or enter these sort of child genius competitions, as the story writing things. That will all be fabulous. So if you want online lessons with me, please contact me. Sorry, if you're someone who's a minor watching this, make sure your parents contact me because I can't deal direct with minors. I can only be in correspondence with minors with the explicit written permission of their parents, who must see all the correspondence. That's all. Goodbye.